I would love, if you're cool with it, if you wouldn't mind telling us, your personal experience. I'm sure you've had several, so maybe like the initial one. What started this all for you?
Yeah, see, that's the big question. I mean, that's in retrospect, you look at things differently because, I had experiences when I was a kid, when I was younger, that at the time I had no frame of reference for those experiences, so I didn't consider it associated with the UFO phenomenon. Kind of at that age, I was too young. So maybe when I
Sure.
was 5 or 6 years old, I had a series of experiences with, you know, some kind of non-human intelligence that I still to this day I can't say it's definitively tied into the UFO phenomenon, but in the UFO and UAP conversation, there's always talks about non-human intelligence and entities, and predominantly through means of like a telepathic communication. So, what happened to me early on with these experiences was that I was, typical, very young in my room late at night, and the, I heard in my mind, or because I was looking, I was just awake and I was looking, and I saw what somebody would call like a shadow entity, but it had like a very soft glow to it. It wasn't just like a typical shadow or a shadow entity, and I kind of froze. But as soon as that happened, I heard a voice, not just in my head. This is what's very hard to describe. I heard it throughout my entire body, and the first thing I heard was, "He can see us," and I really started with,
Jeez.
yeah, I really was beginning to panic at that
Yeah.
point, and I saw this entity moving and then collapse into an orb, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, I saw other ones, but I wasn't like counting them, but for some reason
Yeah.
in my mind, I have the number 3 imprinted as, there were 3 of them there.
Okay.
But again, I heard kind of like, it's really hard to describe this. Even though I heard the entity through, in my body in that sense, I heard audibly, like what it sounded like audibly was almost like gibberish. And
Like speaking in tongues sort of thing,
this is a perfect example, is if you ever saw the movie The Knowing with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Okay, the Whisper people.
Okay.
So whoever made that movie, I have to assume, I don't know if they did research or whatever, but that's exactly what it was like.
Answer me!
It's the same director who did I, Robot.
Yeah, that was a great movie too.
Yeah.
But the audible sounded almost like gibberish, like in that movie. But
okay,
there in my mind, in my body, it was absolutely crystal clear. No, there was no room for question or interpretation.
Oh, wow.
It was just bam, and that was frightening. And that happened to me.
What else did they say besides
I was
hear us?
So I was trying to block it. They said he can see us.
Or he can see us, sure.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was trying to block them out. So at that point I was like,
you were terrified, right?
Yeah,
I get it.
Quite literally.
Yeah. Wow.
And after that, like when I saw movies with like I can't remember the exact movie, but like ghosts in kids' rooms, I would think maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But I have to say this comes full circle because, again, and I had other anomalous experiences in that kind of time frame and a little bit afterwards, like, so I guess you can dub me experiencer. And I understand the meaning and the use for that term, right? But I don't like exclusivity. I don't like that idea because some people get into that, but. Just to point to particular phenomena, I remember I had spontaneous out of body experiences, just like, you know, the kind of thing. I think it's very typical. And when people say, "Oh, they never had that," I'm like, really? Because it's not anything crazy. It is profound when you consider the implications, but it's nothing to me that was unusual. That, you know, you're kind of in between awake and sleep, and as far as your perception goes, like, you haven't fallen asleep yet. There's no lapse in the consciousness, yet all of a sudden you start floating above your body, and then it's like so typical. You look down and you see yourself, and like, I'm like, oh shit, that's me, and then boom, you're back in, right?
Wow.
So that I mean, I thought everybody had that, and
A lot of people talk about that for sure. There's no question.
and to me, I don't really think that's too uncommon.